Bet the Board.
What do you mean you don't bet? I mean, I don't bet. You know, I don't gamble. I don't. I never have, and I never will. Yeah, right. I'll bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day.
You owe me 15 grand, pal.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
It's the Bet the Board podcast.
God likes me. He really, really likes me.
In the end, I wound up right back where I started. I could still pick winners, and I could still make money for all kinds of people back home. And why mess up a good thing?
Here's Payne Insider and Todd Fuhrman.
Welcome to a special edition of Bet the Board podcast. I am Brad Powers, filling in for both Todd Fuhrman and Payne Insider. The guys are going to take a week off as far as talking college football bowl games, but not to worry. Todd and Payne will be back next week as we deep dive, not one, but both playoff semifinals between Alabama and Michigan and Texas and Washington. We'll get you all the stats, all the news, all the notes that you need as far as the two playoff games. That podcast will come out next Wednesday, December the 27th, so make sure you're checking that one out as far as a deep dive on the two playoff semifinals. In this particular podcast, it's me, solo. So if you don't like me, you better turn that dial down, because it is going to be me talking for pretty much an hour straight here. And in that hour, I'm going to go rapid fire the remaining 29 bowl games starting Saturday, December the 23rd. Obviously, we missed the first 10 or so bowl games to start off bowl season. Haven't missed much. It's been a tough handicap, to say the least, and you're going to hear me say that quite a bit here, that with so much uncertainty with player opt-outs, coaching changes and whatnot, these are relatively tough handicaps. Now, this is going to be a different podcast in the fact that it's just not me going solo, but instead of me breaking down analytical stats, me breaking down YPP, specific matchups to look out for, it is mainly going to be this: who is playing, who is opted out, who is coaching, which teams are suffering the most attrition, both on as far as the roster and the coaching staff, what has the market done with this game so far, and where do I expect the market to move going forward with this game. So it's just going to be simply about that. I'll try to get you all the names that you need to know that have already opted out or hit the transfer portal in these games, and I'm going to do it rapid fire. And without further ado, let's get to the Saturday card here. Starting on December the 23rd, I'm going to go in rotation order. And for those of you that are looking for actionable info, I'll try to give it on each and every game, but there will be a best bet, at least one. At the end of the podcast, I will give you guys a best bet. They've done all right. It is going to be a non-Powers 5 game, and those have done well so far, not only this season, but the last couple of years since the guys have been so kind to invite me on the podcast. Let's start rotation order. First one on the docket, we're going to go to the Birmingham Bowl in, appropriately, Birmingham, Alabama. Duke taking on Troy. Troy's up to a 7.5-point favorite. Total's 44.5 as I am recording this on a Tuesday afternoon. Lots to get through this game. I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of great actionable info, because there's just too much uncertainty for even a guy like myself to be comfortable getting involved, at least with what I currently know. Let's start with the Troy side of things. You thought they were going to be pretty well set for the bowl game until about a week ago. Their head coach, John Sumrall, off to Tulane. Good hire for Tulane. Sumrall's a really good coach. Done wonders here at Troy each of the last 2 years. Defense coordinator Greg Gasparato is going to serve as the interim coach here for the bowl game. And Troy's already made their hire for next season. Notre Dame's offensive coordinator Gerard Parker is going to take over full-time following the bowl game. Not sure I like that hire. I wasn't overly impressed with Parker at Notre Dame this season, but he seems like a guy that can maybe handle the head coaching role a little bit better as far as being handling a CEO approach than the daily X's and O's as far as being a coordinator. So we'll talk more about that in the offseason. As far as the transfer portal, pretty light for Troy. Only a starting linebackers hit in the portal, and McDonald at linebacker, at least as I'm recording this. Coaching changes certainly on the other side of the ball as well. Duke, Mike Elko left for Texas A&M. Associate head coach Trooper Taylor will serve as the interim head coach. For those of you that do power ratings and are surprised Troy is laying 7.5 here, here's why Troy's laying 7.5 and why some of the early money's been on Troy. Here's the transfer portal and the opt-outs for Duke. It's significant. Riley Leonard off to Notre Dame. Now, Riley Leonard's been hurt most of the season, at least down the stretch. Grayson Loftus should get the start here. He got a lot of the starts down the stretch. Starting running back for Duke, out. Waters hit the portal. Backup, out, hit the portal. A lot of guys on defense. 5 starters on defense, out. Led by their edge player, R.J. Oben. He's off to Notre Dame. Peebles on the defensive line. Mausi, a linebacker. Cornerback and safety, Johnson and Stinson are out. And then I forgot to mention left tackle Graham Barton, a good one on that offensive line, is opted out. He's going to go play in the Senior Bowl. So lots of starters, nearing double digits for Duke being out in this game. That's why Troy's laying 7.5 here. Not sure this one moves too much. If there is movement, there actually could be some movement against Troy. And let me get to this quick because you're always looking for big picture thoughts as far as how to handle bowl games. Right now, there is a conference that is significantly underperforming, and it's a surprise, the Sun Belt, which was, I think anyone would say, right there with the American as the best Group of 5 conference in college football this season. But we have a 4-game sample size so far in bowl season with Sun Belt teams, and they're 0 for right now as far as covering point spreads, 0-3-1. The one push was very fortunate because Louisiana scored 3 defensive touchdowns and still lost the game by 3. That's really hard to do. App State almost lost to a third-string quarterback. I know it was played in significant weather. Georgia Southern got blown out by a third-string quarterback in Ohio. And then, 24 hours prior to me recording this, we had a Sun Belt team in Old Dominion that was up 28-0 playing a third-string quarterback and somehow found a way to lose a football game. So that's something to keep an eye on. Now, the Marshall game is going to get played tonight. If Marshall comes up short, again against a backup quarterback in UTSA, I think you will generally see some movement against these Sun Belt teams. And speaking of these Sun Belt teams, there's 6 of them in action on Saturday. So that's something to look out for in the market if you're listening to this podcast before the Saturday games. Speaking of another Sun Belt team, let's move along to the next game. We've got 28 more here. Camellia Bowl. This one's in Montgomery, Alabama. Got Arkansas State against Northern Illinois. Arkansas State taking some money today in the market. As I'm doing this, it's up to 3, the highest it's been so far during bowl season. And this screen is lighting up today more than pretty much since the first couple of days that they were available on the board here. So as the limits have opened up here, we are seeing some games move. Arkansas State currently a 3-point favorite. It kind of makes sense when you start diving into this one. Not too much action as far as the transfer portal for Arkansas State. A starting linebacker, Mackey, is going to go to Memphis. Northern Illinois has a couple starters out, including their center. They did have a key guy, wide receiver Rudolph, who entered the portal but has withdrawn from the portal. That's big for them. I agree with the Arkansas State money. I know a couple of groups that fired on Arkansas State, so I think they're the right side here. But like I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, I'm a little hesitant right now with these Sun Belt teams considering how bad the conference has performed so far. So nothing major there. Let's keep it rocking and rolling here. Moving along to the Armed Forces Bowl, where appropriately an Armed Forces team is in this bowl game. Air Force playing James Madison. James Madison currently laying 2.5, totals 41. This one's in Fort Worth, Texas. A lot of the news here on the James Madison side of things. Their coach, Kirk Cignetti, he's not going to coach. He took the head coaching job in Indiana. Good hire there for Indiana. OC Mike Shanahan, DC Bryant Haynes, quarterbacks coach. A lot of the coaches are leaving for Indiana with Cignetti. So the offensive line coach, Robolewski, is going to serve as the acting head coach for this game. This is their first ever bowl game for James Madison, so they should be excited in that regard. But they had to hire 5 temporary coaches to get through this bowl game. So kind of a skeleton crew there. No surprise that we've seen some money come in on Air Force. Transfer portal for this game is very tricky. Lots of James Madison players are in the transfer portal, but a lot of them have said they're going to try to play. I mean, I guess you got to take their word for it, but to me, if you're in the portal, are you totally locked into the game? I'm not sure. Are you taking visits to other schools? and you get taking phone contacts for other schools that are interested in you? Probably. So are you totally focused for this game? I'm not sure that's the case for a lot of these players. Starting with James Madison starting quarterback Jordan McLeod. Again, as I'm recording this on Tuesday, he's still set to play. They got a couple linebackers, Walker and Fisher, in the portal. A couple of defensive linemen, Kamara and Carpenter, in the portal. Cornerback Logan. Starting wide receiver Surratt. Starting running back Lawton. Starting left tackle. All of those guys are in the portal for James Madison, but most of them have said they're going to try to play in this game, so we'll see in that regard. I think Air Force is the sharp side, not only because of what I just mentioned, but looks like, when it comes to Air Force, the transfer portal has been as expected, not too significant like other teams. Their starting running back did hit the portal, Eldridge. But it looks like they could get back their quarterback, Larrier, who got hurt down the stretch of the season. Big reason why Air Force struggled down the stretch of the season. And, if you're just looking at a power rating on Air Force, they are at their absolute lowest of the season. I kind of like it's a buy low spot with them off 4 straight losses for Air Force after starting 8-0. And generally speaking, Service Academy teams good in bowl games. Again, in this opt-out era where motivation's a factor, you don't have to question it with the Service Academies. Air Force has won and covered each of their last 4 bowl games. Army's won 4 of their last 5 bowl games. Navy's won and covered 5 of their last 6 bowl games. So when you're looking to get some consistency as far as a performance and trying to trust something, I think you could do far worse than Air Force here. So I bet Air Force. The market's agreed with that. I think that's the sharper of the sides here. Even though if this was a regular season game, man, you would say, hey, James Madison's front matches up well with Air Force and what they want to do from a rush aspect, because James Madison's rush defense #1 in the country. I'm just not, with these guys injured and in the portal up front, I'm not sure how locked in they are playing the Air Force's option. So Air Force for me there. Let's move to the Potato Bowl. We'll keep it going here and try to get this again done in an hour. This one's in Boise, Idaho. Potato Bowl, easy for me to say. Georgia State against Utah State. Utah State currently favored by 2.5. A lot of money on Utah State here. They opened about a field goal underdog, and now they're laying almost a field goal. Doesn't take much to cross through 0, but still relatively significant move here. I'm part of it. On the Utah State side of things as far as the movement here. I like Utah State quite a bit for a variety of reasons. Let's start with who isn't playing for Georgia State, their opponent. Running back for Georgia State. He's a good one. Marcus Carroll. He's going to Missouri. That should tell you something. He's going up a step. The backup running back's gone. Hit the portal. The top wide receiver, Robert Lewis. He's going to Auburn. That tells you these guys are good enough to go play for SEC teams. The right tackle, he hit the portal. He's going to Virginia Tech. Starting cornerback is going to Boston College. So, all these guys are going to Power 5 teams. They're not leaving for lateral moves here. They're all going to play up a level, so to speak. And, that's some significant talent lost. Utah State's only lost 1 starter to the portal, starting safety Dye. Injuries. Utah State's going to start Levi Williams at quarterback. Cooper Legis and that Hillstead kid's hurt. You think, third-string quarterback. How can you bet Utah State? Levi Williams has played a ton of football. He's several starts under his belt, including he started this bowl game a couple years ago when he was the Wyoming starting quarterback, and he played very well in the game, to say the least. Ran for over 200 yards, and he won this bowl game. So I think in his final game as a college player before he goes off to the Marines, I think he'll be extremely motivated. And Utah State's used to playing on the blue turf. They played here time and time again against Boise, so it'll be a unique experience for Georgia State. I like Utah State here. Lay the 2.5. We might go back to that one later. That might be a hint as far as the best bet. But there's a lot of games that I particularly like. I'm not sure that this next bowl game is one of them, no. The 68 Ventures Bowl. Yeah, I said that right. 68 Ventures Bowl. This one's played in Mobile, Alabama, at the home of the team playing in this bowl game, South Alabama, hosting Eastern Michigan here. So a home game for South Alabama. And as I'm recording this, they're taking money. Well, this is the highest this line's been in the market in the last couple of weeks. South Alabama up to 17, even a couple 17.5s popping up. Now that they've lost a couple of guys, their top wide receiver, Lacey, has hit the portal. Quarterback situation, a little up in the air. Carter Bradley's dealing with a knee injury. He's been splitting the bowl practice reps with the freshman Lopez, who looked pretty good in the Troy game earlier this year. Desmond Trotter's got a ton of experience, so be interesting to see how they split up the duties there at quarterback. Webb, the running back, he's not going to play. He's injured. So the skill position's not completely 100% for South Alabama. Same with Eastern Michigan. Starting quarterback Austin Smith hit the portal. Doesn't look like Smith's going to play for this one, so that's a significant loss. They got a bunch of other players that have hit the portal. Coleman, a starting edge player, is going to Cincinnati. Another starting defensive lineman, a starting guard's going to Southern Miss. A tight end is going to Arkansas. So several starters out for Eastern Michigan. And let me just say this. If you're a little bit surprised by how big the point spread is, keep in mind you got to give South Alabama a couple points for home field advantage. But I mean, Eastern Michigan by far is the weakest bowl team in this year's lineup. I mean, they played the weakest schedule in the country as far as my power ratings. Number 133 out of 133 FBS teams. Eastern Michigan, number 117 in yards per play margin. Number 128 in yards per game margin. So I'm not particularly surprised that the line is the highest, or right up there with the Oregon Liberty game as the highest in bowl season. But that being said, man, I mean, 17's a lot, especially for a South Alabama team that's not going to be at full strength. So at the current numbers, I'd actually lean with Eastern Michigan. Not enough for best bet material. We're talking pizza bets here. Moving forward, Las Vegas Bowl. This is a game I'm actually going to attend, so I'm pretty excited for that. It's probably the best matchup on Saturday, December the 23rd. At least a couple of Power 5 teams involved in this one. You have Utah taking on Northwestern. Utah favored by 6.5, total 42. A little bit of money on Northwestern. I'm part of the Northwestern money here. Utah, Bryson Barnes is in the portal, but he is going to play in the bowl game. At least he was on the depth chart when I was looking at it today. Mikey Matthews, wide receivers in the portal. Not sure he's going to play. Cornerback Broughton, I don't think he's playing. He's in the portal. Keep in mind, Utah also lost a couple of key players to injury earlier this season. Lander Barton and linebacker edge Logan Fano. He's injured, out for the year. Opt-outs, Vele at wide receiver, out for Utah. Northwestern doesn't have much. They got starting left guard hit the portal, but other than that, this team's healthy. They're excited. Keep in mind, this was a Northwestern team that had all that offseason turmoil, had a win total at 2.5, 3 entering the season after it got bet down after the firing of Pat Fitzgerald. They far exceeded expectations, got the 7 wins. The interim is now the permanent coach moving forward. A lot of optimism here, and some optimism on Northwestern in this bowl game. I think they're the sharper side here. Not a big bet, but I certainly do lean with Northwestern here, taking the 6.5. Hawaii Bowl. Unfortunately, the Christmas tradition of watching the Hawaii Bowl on Christmas Eve won't happen this year. You will have some NFL games, though, to watch, so you'll still have football. But on Saturday, December the 23rd, the bailout game in Hawaii, Coastal Carolina, playing San Jose State. Obviously, San Jose State has experience playing in Hawaii. It's a very unique travel spot, unique trip. Tough to handle all the distractions, but San Jose State did play earlier this year at Hawaii, and they crushed Hawaii. So you got to give them a little bit, maybe a half point or so for familiarity with the venue and the location. Coastal Carolina transfer portal hit them a little bit harder. Grayson McCall's not going to play. He's off to NC State. They'll be down to a third-string quarterback, but Vasco played a lot this year for Coastal and did okay. I mean, he had over 200 snaps, and they won some games with him at quarterback, so I don't think it's going to be a shock to him playing in this game. Wide receiver Jared Brown's out. Running back Beasley hit the portal. Starting linebacker hit the portal, killing for them. San Jose State does have a couple of portal guys. Their left tackle and tight end hit the portal. Cordero is kind of a homecoming for him. Keep in mind, he used to be the Hawaii starting quarterback, so it'll be emotional for him. As I'm recording this, a lot of money came in on the under. It was 54 when I started this recording 15 minutes ago. It's down to 52, so it must have been, I don't know who went through and put the order in, but that's pretty significant at this point for that thing to move 2 points in 15 minutes. So I'm kind of indifferent as far as the side. I made it 10. It's 10 right now. There's a few 10.5s out there. I understand people taking away the hook there. Not really interested in this one too much. as far as that one. That'll wrap up the Saturday. 7 down, 22 to go here. Tuesday, December 26th, Quick Lane Bowl. As we're doing these in rotation order, we got Bowling Green taking on Minnesota. Early money on Bowling Green in this one. Minnesota's down to a 3.5-point favorite. Total's 39.5. Bowling Green has had, despite the fact they've been getting the money here, they have had some guys in the transfer portal. Their stud cornerback, Husky, first-team All-MAC kid, he's hit the portal. Another cornerback, Jones, who in limited snaps impressed me. Keith, who's a running back but actually leads the team in receiving, he has hit the portal, so they're not going to be at 100%. Minnesota is going to be down to a third-string quarterback, Cole Kramer. If you read the stories, seemed believable, but the story that I read was Kramer's getting $30,000 to play in this game. He was expected to hit the portal, and Minnesota wouldn't have had a scholarship quarterback on the roster because their top two guys hit the portal. So he was offered $30,000 to go play in this bowl game. And rumor is he's going to use that $30,000 to pay for his wedding this upcoming summer. So kudos for him. Sounds like it's a decent going rate for a starting quarterback. You absolutely need a guy to play in a bowl game. Important for Minnesota sitting here at 5-7, a losing season, to finish the season somewhat strong here. So I kind of get that. I kind of get the money on BG. I mean, I'll tell you, the boat's kind of sinking a little bit up there in Minneapolis because not only do they have, quarterback portal guys, your quarterbacks entering the portal, they had their defensive coordinator, Joe Rossi, leaving for another Big Ten job. And it's not like he's going from Minnesota to Michigan. He's going from Minnesota to Michigan State. Seems like a lateral move. So this is going to be a really important offseason for PJ Fleck. I mean, it was an extremely disappointing season, and they need this game. Do I think there's a lot of value at the current number? No. 3.5. I mean, keep in mind you could have gotten 6.5. The opening the first couple days of bowl action as far as the betting. So I'm not running the window to bet BG. Overtook some money here in the last 24 hours. Again, it's up to 39.5. Still, obviously one of the lower bowl totals out there, but it's taking some over money here. You don't have to. It's in Detroit, but obviously at Ford Field, you don't have to worry about the weather. So I kind of understand that. Not a great value pick though in that one. Moving along on Tuesday, December the 26th, game that just took. Again, I'm not lying to you guys here. As I'm doing this podcast, I mean, stuff is hitting the board where we haven't seen too much line movement. We are finally starting to see it. This is one game. Texas State was pretty much sitting 4.5 as far as a 4.5 point favorite for the last 2 weeks. And in the last 15 minutes, they're up to 5.5 here. This is the First Responder Bowl. They're playing relatively close to home in Dallas, Texas. Texas State, excited. It's their first ever bowl game. They're under a first-year coach. Haven't had too many opt-outs, as you would expect, with the team relatively excited. They're a tough team to get a grasp on. If you told me in this game, if both teams would play their A game, I understand why Texas State just took some money. They have a far higher ceiling than Rice. But I trust Rice on a game-in and game-out basis more. It's just Texas State. I mean, they can win 1 week by 3 touchdowns, turn right around and lose a game by 3 touchdowns. And, I mean, to win that game by 3 touchdowns as an underdog and lose a game by 3 touchdowns as a favorite. They just haven't hit a consistency aspect that makes me comfortable betting them. Now, Rice is going to be without JT Daniels, but Padge has gotten several starts as a quarterback, including last year's bowl game. So I don't think it's that big of a downgrade there. Current value, I'm anxious. If it ticks back up to the 6 range, that's the price. That's the buy price for me on Rice. And that's where I bet it earlier this bowl season. I took 6.5. So if it gets back to that 6 range here, I'm going to lean with Rice. But as we currently are recording this, 5.5, kind of a dead number there for me. Finally, on Tuesday, December the 26th, Kansas taking on UNLV. Kansas big favorite here, 12.5. Current spread, total 64.5. Kansas offense coordinator Kotelnicki, very good offense coordinator, very highly regarded, very good hire for James Franklin at Penn State. He took the OC job there, so they'll miss his unique play calling. UNLV had a couple of okay players at the portal, Jenkins at safety and running back Courtney Reese, but nothing significant there. They should be excited. They're playing in their first bowl game in a decade, UNLV. And speaking of exceeding expectations, that's all UNLV did the first 11 games of the season. They went 10-1 against the number. But if you're following this podcast and you're following these non-Power 5s best bets, We faded them each of the last two. I mean, of all the games available, we played against UNLV the last 2 weeks of the season. And they stepped up and had to play better competition with more expectations down the stretch at home against San Jose State and Boise State. They failed to meet those expectations. I thought that they reached a level where, as far as a weight class that they just weren't used to punching in, and they got exposed a little bit. And I'm not saying there's high value on Kansas here, but I do think Kansas is relatively motivated. That's why we haven't seen too many opt-outs. They're trying to win their first bowl game in 15 years. So this is one where I did take a little piece of Kansas here. Let's move forward. Wednesday, December the 27th. I took a big piece of this game, but it's been one of the bigger movers. Military Bowl, Annapolis, Maryland. Virginia Tech, favored by 10.5, total 45. They're playing Tulane. Virginia Tech, a little bit of opt-outs. Tight end, right, opted out. A couple other guys opted out, but here's where I start seeing some value. Lofton, a wide receiver, Cantina cornerback have hit the portal, but they want to play in this game. So that tells me that, hey, this game's important to the roster. Second-year coach. You saw how well they finished the season. Much better teams back half of the season than they were at the start, led by a blowout win over their rival Virginia in the finale. So this is a program ascending. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to be an ACC title contender, but I think next year's team will be better than this year's team. So I think this team's on the right path there under second-year coach from Brent Pry. Can't say the same, at least for Tulane right now, to end the season. And I thought Tulane was overrated most of the season, especially down the stretch. They were just getting by and winning games without margin. And even the UTSA game where they covered a point spread was very misleading in the regular season finale. They're playing an SMU team with a backup quarterback. They get dominated in that game. I know Tulane's favored and they end up losing by 12. And you ask, well, Brad, how much worse could it be? I'm here to tell you. I thought SMU should have won that game by 3 touchdowns. I mean, SMU was the team making a ton of mental mistakes in that game and settling for a bunch of field goals. So Tulane just, wasn't as good as their record, so to speak. And then on top of it, Willie Fritz is gone, the head coach. I love Willie Fritz. He's taking the head coaching job at Houston. Now, a lot of their staff's going to stay and coach the bowl game, including offense coordinator Nagel, defense coordinator Wood. They're going to stay, but he's still a lot of these guys are going to follow with Fritz to Houston. So I'm sure there's some split time. I mean, you got to put your, father and husband hat on, probably find a new home and whatnot. So is 100% of your time and effort into this prepping for this bowl game? Probably not. I do like Tulane moving forward as far as starting next season because I like John Summerall as a hire. He's the Troy head coach. But what I don't like is the personnel that's opted out in this game, starting with Michael Pratt in this game. That was just announced over the weekend that he's not going to play in this game. That was kind of expected. On top of it, the starting wide receiver, Brazel, starting safety, Douglas, starting edge, Deal, starting other edge, Cooper, starting tight end, Bauman, the backup quarterback, Horton's in the portal. So they could be down. If he doesn't play, they're going to be down to a third-string quarterback here. So this is a Tulane team that's very compromised and not surprised here that this line's moved 5-6 points since open. With Virginia Tech taking the money. I'm a part of it. Am I betting it now at the current number? No, unfortunately. Unfortunately, you almost have to be in front of a screen to catch a lot of the news on this stuff, or it just becomes an opportunity to bet the game in game live. And that's something I should mention here briefly. If you don't get the best of the number, I would not recommend chasing the lines that have already moved 5-6 points. Just don't do it. It's just not optimal. If you want to get involved during the game and get a feel for it, because even then, no one really knows. With so much different personnel in these bowl games, I mean, look at the Old Dominion Western Kentucky game. Backup quarterback's in there. I mean, Western Kentucky's down 21-0. They have to bench him. They go to the third-string guy, and all of a sudden he looks like an All-American. So a lot of variance in these bowl games. Speaking of variance and significant line moves, another one here, Mayo Bowl. This one's in Charlotte. Again, we're doing Wednesday, December the 27th here. West Virginia up to a 6.5-point favorite, total 54.5. The story here is all the opt-outs for North Carolina and the major reason why West Virginia is taking money. We'll start off with the portal. Morales, tight end for North Carolina. Holloway, a cornerback. More importantly, Drake May, the quarterback for North Carolina. He's hitting the NFL draft. Starting linebacker, Cedric Gray. Starting corner or center, Gainer's out. Starting wide receiver, Tez Walker. He made a hell of a difference for the offense once he came into play after the first couple of games. They're injured as well. Nesbitt at wide receiver is not going to play. Tight end Copenhaver is not going to play. A cornerback, Huzzy's not going to play. He's hurt. A safety, Hardy's not going to play. I mean, the double digits as far as North Carolina being down starters in this ball game. I don't trust Matt. I mean, this team disappointed with all these guys in the lineup this year, including Drake May. I mean, now you expect Connor Harrell, the backup quarterback, to all of a sudden come in and compete against a West Virginia team that exceeded expectations. Even though North Carolina is playing close to home, West Virginia looks like they're going to have the crowd advantage in this one. I like West Virginia. Now, it's not perfect on that side. Frazier, their center, one of the top centers, he's going to miss following a surgery due to injury. They got a couple other guys in the portal, but all in all, I'm part of the West Virginia money here. I think anything under a touchdown, that's certainly where I'm leaning in this one. Holiday Bowl, guess what? Another bowl game, another game. It's tough to judge. A lot of the best players out in this one. This one's in San Diego. Louisville favored by 7.5, total 57.5 in this game. Let's start with the Louisville side of things. Gerard Jordan's going to miss the bowl game. He's their best running back for Louisville. Top wide receiver, Jamari Thrash. He's leaving for the draft as well. That's two big playmakers for an offense that, I mean, last time we saw him, it didn't, couldn't do much against Florida State. Not saying, now, Florida State defense, far cry from USC's pathetic defense, but still, to lose your top two consistent playmakers doesn't give me a lot of confidence to want to run it and lay more than a touchdown here. SC, obviously, you're talking Caleb Williams opting out. Expect Miller Moses to start here for them. Malachi Nelson hit the portal. Tamani Jackson hit the portal, another young player. Tackett Curtis hit the portal. What the hell is going on there at USC? You don't want to see a lot of your young guys, 5-star caliber players, or Tackett Curtis wasn't a 5-star, but I mean, he was probably your most productive freshman this year. He's hitting the portal. Not good. Marshawn Lloyd's out for USC. Brendan Rice is out as far as opt-outs. So where am I getting at here? A lot of uncertainty. I guess with so much uncertainty, I'm usually going to lean towards take instead of laying when you got a big point spread. So I'd rather be on the take on USC, but nothing big. Nothing that I have run to the window and bet here. Something I have run to the window and bet, and I think you can still get in front of a line move here. Texas Bowl, NRG Stadium. Again, we're still on Wednesday, December the 27th. Texas A&M down to 2 now. Your total is 53. A&M arguably is hit as hard as any team as far as opt-outs, transfer portal, coaching staff. I mean, it's really significant. Jimbo Fisher out. Offense coordinator Bobby Petrino took the OC job at Arkansas. Colin Klein's going to replace him. Good hire. Obviously, Mike Elko is not going to coach, but that was a good hire for them. Elijah Robinson, he got hired as a Syracuse DC. He's recruiting and stuff for Syracuse, so he's splitting up time, but he's the interim head coach through the bowl game here. But again, I don't know if 100% of his hours are being spent here. Portal for A&M, Max Johnson hit the portal. He's heading to North Carolina. Jalen Henderson's going to start again for them. He started the last couple games of the season. Basantis at right tackle, out. Edge Diggs, out. Transfer portal. Safety Anderson, out. Portal. Walter Nolan, arguably maybe the most talented player in the portal regardless of position. He's out. Starting cornerback, Chappell, out. Harmon, another cornerback, out. Tight end, Jake Johnson, out. Man, this is sounding like a broken record. Opt-outs for them. I haven't even gotten to that. That was just the portal for A&M. Opt-outs, pair of wide receivers, and Nia Smith, Evan Stewart, out. Cooper, out. McKinley Jackson, out. Robinson and right guard, out. And we're at a dozen starters here, out for A&M, plus the skeleton coaching staff. And you're playing a guy or you're going up against a head coach and Mike Gundy that's already coached in 17 bowl games in his career. He's 11-6 straight up. One of the better bowl coaches there are. And do I like this Oklahoma State team? No. Statistically, they're pretty average, but I mean, they don't have a lot of transfer portal and opt-outs. I'm part of the Oklahoma State money. I would not be a bit surprised. Again, as I'm doing this, A&M's favored by 2. I think the line closes close to pick. So if you want to get in front of a little bit and have a little bit of CLV, Oklahoma State for me, one of my favorite bowl picks that I bet so far this bowl season. Let's get to Thursday, December the 28th, as we continue to roll through these games. Fenway Bowl at Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts. SMU taking on Boston College. SMU an 11-point favorite. Total's 50. SMU, to me, and I've been saying it most of the season, best team at the Group of 5 level. If it was about the best teams, they would be playing in the Fiesta Bowl, not the most deserving team, Liberty. You heard that podcast last time we talked to you guys. I just didn't understand. The committee didn't get the most deserving teams or the best teams, whether it was in the playoff or as far as the Group of 5 team. It's unbelievable to me. But I mean, let Vegas tell you, or the market. SMU's favored by 11 appropriately here. As far as value in the game, though, obviously quarterback Preston Stone's out for the year. Kevin Jennings is going to start again for them. He did okay, I guess. I mean, he did lead them to the outright upset over Tulane, but it's not like Jennings played that well. BC's down a couple guys in the secondary. Where I prefer some value here, I think under makes sense. I think SMU's certainly not going to throw as much with Jennings compared to what they would with Stone. BC, I don't think has much success in the air. And then, I mean, we're talking about late December, Boston, Massachusetts. I was just there in Boston, Massachusetts in early December. Weather was supposed to be 52 degrees, sunny, no wind. It was 45 degrees, overcast, and wind. So I don't know if you can trust the forecast. I mean, if I was a betting man, and last I checked I am, I would say there's a greater than 50% chance that the weather's not going to be optimal here. So under 50 for me. Wouldn't be a bit surprised if you want to get in front of a couple point line movement. This one closes in the upper 40s as far as the total in this one. Another bowl game played outside in a baseball stadium. Pinstripe Bowl, Yankee Stadium, also on Thursday, December the 28th. Rutgers taking on Miami. Miami favored by 1, total 40.5. A lot of movement here, and I agree with it on Rutgers. Makes a lot of sense. Keep it simple. Is Miami going to be motivated to be playing in a December bowl game in Yankee Stadium? Probably not. And if you don't believe me, then let's just look at the portal and who's playing it, who's going to decide to play and who isn't. Tyler Van Dyke's out. Starting wide receiver Colby Young's out. Harvey's hit the portal, an edge player for them. Corey Flagg, an important linebacker for them, hit the portal. They're going to be down to a third-string quarterback, Curry Brown. Obviously, Emory Williams got hurt in the Florida State game. Opt-outs, they're two outstanding safeties, Kinchins and Williams. Leonard Taylor's out, so several starters out for Miami. Rutgers should be relatively exciting playing. They're not used to playing in a bunch of bowl games the last decade since they moved to the Big Ten. This is an important game for Schiano. He made a name for himself as an assistant in Miami 20-plus years ago before he took his first he took over Rutgers the first go-around. Couple injuries for Rutgers. Tight end Langen, he had season-ending surgery. Melton at cornerback has opted out. But Manungai is going to return for another season. He's a really solid back for them. I like Rutgers in the game. I think they win the game outright. Taking +1. Pop-Tarts Bowl, Camping World Stadium. Decent matchup, NC State, Kansas State. This one, you're going to see both of these teams at the top of the list as far as opt-outs and transfer portal. Big disparity for the importance of the players that have hit the portal between the two teams. And a big reason why NC State's taken a lot of the money here, and I'm a part of it, is the importance of those players that have hit the portal. Not so much on the NC State side, pretty significant on the Kansas State side. I think the most important loss for NC State, they're starting nose tackle CJ Clark out for this one. Other than that, a couple of wide receivers that they'll miss, I think, as far as rotation, but it's not a good NC State wide receiver core to begin with. Kansas State, a little surprising for a team that I generally think has a really good culture. Quarterback Will Howard hit the portal. I'm not necessarily stunned by that because Avery Johnson is the future. He's going to start. We'll see, though. I mean, Avery Johnson's more of a runner. I'm not sure he can beat NC State over the top. Here's where I'm a little bit surprised at the opt-outs in the portal for Kansas State. Starting safety Savage, starting cornerback Lee, edge player Matt Lack. Colin Klein, the OC, is off to A&M, so it'll be interesting to see how the offense looks with the new play caller. Opt-out, Brooks at wide receiver. Sin at a tight end. I love one of the better tight ends, top 10 tight end in the country. He's opted out. I guess where I'm getting at, I'm part of the NC State money. I think NC State wins, so do the math there, +2.5. Alamo Bowl. I would say this is one of the more intriguing bowl games on the entire slate, not just for this date on Thursday, but of all the 40 bowl games, this is an intriguing matchup. Arizona taking on Oklahoma, both teams in the top 20. Opt-outs for Arizona, minimal, as you would expect. They're excited to be here. Got a chance to win 10 wins for the first time forever for them. Left tackles out for them. Oklahoma, speaking of offensive line, opt-outs, they're going to be down 3 starters. Guyton and their center have opted out. A real surprise in the transfer portal, one of the biggest ones, regardless of team. This year, Caden Green, a freshman for them at guard, hit the portal. He's going to head to Missouri. Big loss there. A couple of their running backs, Walker and Major. I still think they're going to be okay at running back. And then obviously the big one, Dylan Gabriel off to Oregon. Jackson Arnold's going to get the start. I'm here to tell you, I think they're okay with Jackson Arnold. I don't think he's that big of a downgrade. Now, I'm a little bit worried that he's going to be playing in front of an inexperienced offensive line in your first start, so I'm not saying crazy value here on Oklahoma, but Arizona, it'll be interesting to see. They're playing with expectations. The first bowl game and being favored over a blue blood like Oklahoma. I'm more on the Oklahoma side, especially with Stutzman, Billy Bowman coming back on that defense. I lean towards the Oklahoma here, catching the 3. I'm going to be a bit surprised that one closes 2.5 if you want to get in front of a line move. Let's flip forward as we move along here. And again, going to try to do this in under an hour, 29 games. Friday, December the 29th, Gator Bowl, Clemson, Kentucky. Money's on Kentucky. Makes sense when you look at who's playing and who isn't. Transfer portal for Clemson. They've been hit pretty hard. Bo Collins off to Notre Dame. Mitchell Mays at offensive line starting safety. Makuba, one of the better players, regardless of position in the portal. He's out. Pride at cornerback. Got a few snaps this year. He hit the portal. Opt-outs for them, significant. Cornerback Wiggins, linebacker Trotter, love Jeremiah Trotter, defensive lineman. So several starters. Barrett Carter's going to come back for them, but still 5-6 guys out for Clemson as far as starters. Kentucky portal, relatively light for them. Wade Kidd at edge is going to go to Colorado. The draft, Ray Davis at running back. He's going to play in the bowl game. He's still excited to play in the bowl game. At least that's what the news is as I'm doing this on a Tuesday. Phillips at cornerback is also expected to play in the bowl game despite, declaring for the NFL draft. So that tells me that they're relatively excited. And we've seen money come in, pretty much one-way action here throughout bowl. I mean, it opened as high as 9 down to 5. So lean Kentucky for me. Speaking of opt-outs, the opt-out bowl game of the year would be the Sun Bowl between Notre Dame and Oregon State, where 20-plus starters combined have opted out of this game. Very tough to get a grasp here. Let's start on the Oregon State side. We'll start on the coaching staff. Jonathan Smith's off to Michigan State. The new head coach is the former DC, Trent Bray. But he's not going to be coaching in the bowl game, even though he was the DC this year. He's going to be the new permanent coach moving forward next year. He's too busy trying to, patch together a roster and a coaching staff here, so he's not going to coach in this bowl game. Heinsohn, the passing game coordinator, is going to be the interim. Cornerbacks coach, not cornerbacks coach, Perkins. He's going to be the interim DC, so a skeleton crew staff for Oregon State. Skeleton crew roster, too. Starting quarterback, Uiagalelei, gone, portal. Aiden Childs, gone, portal. He's the backup quarterback. Now, thankful for Oregon State. They have Gold Branson. Not a great player, but has experience. Not many third-string quarterbacks have a 7-1 career record as a starting quarterback. So that's a positive for them that they have someone like that on the roster. But against that Notre Dame defense, I don't know how successful they'll be there. On the defensive side for Oregon State, Mascarenas Arnold, their leading tacklers, portal. Arnold, portal at safety. They're both heading off to USC. McCoy at cornerback. Jack Velling, a really good tight end for them, hit the portal. That's a big loss on offense. And hell, even the place kicker for Oregon State hit the portal. 13 out of 14 on field goals for Sappington. That's a loss. Wide receiver Gould is opting out, going to the pros. 3 offensive linemen aren't going to play starting offensive linemen for Oregon State aren't going to play, led by the right tackle. And Gray and Bloomfield are hurt. The expectation is they're not going to be ready to play. Martinez at running back, the starting running back. Wow, early on in the bowl season, not expected to play, then expected to play, and now recent news in the last 24 hours is he's not, after being declared eligible to play in the bowl game, doesn't look like he's going to play here. Damian Martinez for Oregon State. Whew, that's Oregon State. Now let's get to the Notre Dame side of things. OC Parker just announced on the last day he's going to be the head coach at Troy, so he's not going to be the play caller. Wasn't a big fan of him to begin with, but Gino Guidugli's got experience. In fact, rumors were that Guidugli was taking some of the play calling away from Parker anyways at the end of the season, because Parker was, stats say Notre Dame's offense was great, but man, when they had to step up against better competition, it was a tough look. So what will be a tough look is the offense as far as personnel. Rico Flores, portal. Tobias Merriweather, these are wide receivers, portal. Tyree, wide receiver, portal. Holden Stays at tight end, portal. These are all guys with 250-plus snaps. The starting center, Zeke Correll, he's been injured since week 10. He's out. I think they'll be okay at center. Normally, I'd be worried losing a starting center, but Ashton Craig played well for Notre Dame down the stretch. A couple other key guys on defense have opted out. Lou Fowl at linebacker, Cam Hart at cornerback. It's taken me a while, but obviously the most significant opt-out for Notre Dame, Sam Hartman at quarterback, is not going to play in the Sun Bowl. Steve Angeli will get the start for them there. Both tackles for Notre Dame on the offensive line have opted out. They're two good ones, especially Joe Alt. Estime, the outstanding running back, not going to play. He's opted out. So, my goodness, Notre Dame's down 9 starters on offense. But it's going to, and their OC, so it's going to be a tough look there. No surprise that the under's taking a ton of money here with so many question marks and so many opt-outs. My goodness, tough to get a full grasp on that one. What have I bet? I bet under, bet a little bit on the dog here. Nothing significant that I think there's a lot of value. I will say this, though. If you think, hey, I can't lay that kind of points with Notre Dame, Notre Dame's backups they're much better shape than what they were maybe 5-6 years ago. Marcus Freeman's done a good job the last couple of recruiting cycles getting some quality depth. So Notre Dame's, most of their starters are out, but they're 22 to 44 guys on their roster, a little bit more talented than normal for them. So I don't think it's a total loss losing a bunch of those guys. Liberty Bowl, quickly here. Memphis, Iowa State. I think the most intriguing thing to me in this game is Memphis playing a home game, but Iowa State's going to have a significant crowd advantage, in my opinion. It'll probably be 60-40 at least, Iowa State fans here. Memphis had a couple of guys on the offensive line hit the portal. Early money's on Iowa State. I kind of agree with that, but my goodness, I'd rather be on the take than on the lay with Matt Campbell as my coach. It doesn't handle expectations well. Did really well this season when expectations were low and not much was thought of them, but now they're laying 8.5. Kind of a pass situation now at the current number. Another game that has moved literally in the last half hour, it's the Cotton Bowl, Missouri, Ohio State. So for the last 2 weeks, nothing but one-way action on Missouri. Opened as high as Ohio State 6.5. Missouri got out to a 2.5-point favorite. Now Ohio State finally took some money here. And I agree with both moves. I have Missouri plus 6.5 in my pocket. And I agree with the last move on Ohio State. And let me tell you why. The expectation, why there was so much money on Missouri early on, was Missouri's got hardly everybody's pretty much, it's all hands on deck for them. Everyone's expected to be available. No opt-outs, no portal as far as starters. Maybe the cornerback, Rakestraw, might miss the game, but other than that, everybody's there for Missouri. Ohio State, the expectation was they're going to be down 10, 12 guys as far as starters. McCord, obviously gone. Although I've been saying it all year, I've been listening to the podcast. I'm not a big fan of Kyle McCord. Devin Brown's going to get the start. They're liking what they're seeing in practice so far. Julian Fleming, wide receiver, hit the portal. Not their best guy. Speaking of their best guy, yet to opt out, believe it or not. Marvin Harrison Jr., who's going to be a top 5 pick in the draft, has not declared out for this game yet. Neither is Cade Stover at tight end, Proctor at safety, JTT at defensive end, Michael Hall at defensive tackle, Eichenberg at linebacker. None of these guys have officially declared that they're out yet. Already, guys that have, you expected that would be opting out of the game have said, hey, they're going to play. Egbuka at wide receiver, Sawyer at defensive end, Williams at defensive tackle, Burke at cornerback, Travion Henderson at running back. All of these players are going to play in this game. So I think when it's all said and done, this one closes. I wouldn't be a bit surprised, depending if how many of those guys that haven't announced yet. If most of those guys announce that they're in for the Buckeyes, would not be a bit surprised Ohio State closes the short favorite here, like 1.5-point favorite. So at the current numbers, as I'm recording this, give me the plus sign with the Buckeyes next to their name. And again, that has just moved in the last 15, 20 minutes since I hit the record button. A few more, 5-6 more here, and then that's a wrap. I think we'll be able to accomplish the goal here. Peach Bowl, Mississippi against Penn State. really good matchup here. Really looking forward. I think both of these teams are going to have significant expectations heading into next season. Ole Miss is really going forward. If you pay attention to the portal, they have the number 1 portal class. They are all in as far as going for the national championship next year. Got a lot of guys back. Penn State's going to have a lot of guys back. Not a lot of guys have opted out of this game. Ole Miss is down there starting right tackle, but that's due to injury. Penn State, Chop Robinson did opt out. The defensive end, tight end Theo Johnson on the offense. But other than that, there still could be some opt-outs here, but looks like most hands are on deck for this one. Penn State will be down their offense coordinator who they fired. So they're going to keep their co-OCs that they've been running the last couple of weeks, or last couple of games, I should say. They did make a great hire in Andy Kotelnicki, but he's not going to call plays. Manny Diaz, the DC, took the Duke head coach job. So they'll have an interim DC. That's probably the biggest negative for Penn State here. Is there a lot of value in this game? No. I think this is a popcorn game. I think the winner is going to maybe be a preseason top 5-6 team. I mean, that's the expectation on this one. So not much, I don't think there's much value, at least the current numbers. Game that, again, going to sound like a broken record, got hit today. Not lying. This one got hit and steamed big time. Music City Bowl. Auburn, Maryland. Auburn up to 7. This was 2.5 this morning when I woke up. Why such a big line move? Well, I mean, Maryland's starting quarterback, Talia Tagovailoa, was supposed to play. Nope, going to opt out. In addition to that, for Maryland, lots of opt-outs for them in this game. They're starting tight end, they're starting linebacker, Barham, cornerback, a couple of cornerbacks down for them. So 5 starters down for them. Only a couple guys out for Auburn at this point. So first-year coach, want to finish the season strong. For them, very important for Hugh Freeze. Understand the money on Auburn here, but you're chasing. I mean, this has moved 5 points now. 7 seems about right with the current, at least the current news that we have. Orange Bowl. Ooh, ugly game. Payne told you this a couple weeks ago. The thought process was we could just have both teams just taking a knee every down. Haven't had as many opt-outs as expected, although they could be coming down the line. For Georgia, what we do know is Muse and Dumas Johnson have hit the portal for them. Not everybody has. Nobody's really announced official opt-outs. Carson Beck looks like he's going to come back next season. But Bowers, McConkey, Ratledge, and Van Prana up front on the offensive line, on the defense side of the ball, 4 or 5 starters. None of these guys have officially announced out yet. So kind of wait and see mode as far as that news goes. Florida State, obviously Jordan Travis isn't going to play. Rodemaker should be back for them. He missed that. Remember, Florida State was down to a third-string quarterback in the ACC championship game. Rodemaker, the backup, will be back. Portal, Bless Harris, not a big loss for them, not a big surprise. Farmer, it was on the defensive front. A little bit of surprise they lost him. Opt-outs, Johnny Wilson is officially opted out for them. Waiting on Jared Verse, Keon Coleman, Trey Benson, Jaheim Bell. None of those guys have officially opted out yet. So kind of wait and see mode. So what do we do? What the hell do we do with this game? I think with the current news, and maybe even the current expectation for there to be a lot more guys to opt out under 44.5. I mean, I don't expect Florida State's offense to have much success, and I don't think Georgia's going to get too creative on offense. So under for me. Arizona Bowl, Toledo, Wyoming, as we wrap up the Saturday, December 30th games. Toledo and Wyoming here. Wyoming favored now by 3.5. A lot of money on Wyoming. 2 reasons. Number 1, starting quarterback for Toledo hit the portal. Going to go to a Baylor. Good kid, DeQuan Finn, as far as talent. Tucker Gleason does have experience starting, and he'll probably get the start here. Toledo also loses maybe their best offensive lineman. And then I think another reason why we're getting Wyoming money, Craig Bull, the outstanding coach for them for the last decade. This will be his final game as a coach. This is it for him. You expect them to be extremely motivated. The portal's telling you that they're going to be motivated because they've only had 1 starter opt out and hit the portal. Wyoming did just lose their OC. Polasek is going to be the new head coach in North Dakota State. But other than that, I mean, I think Wyoming's the play here. A couple more games, and then we'll get to a best bet. Monday, January the 1st, Wisconsin, LSU. I think of the big games the last couple days here, December 29th, 30th, January 1st, I like LSU. Money came in on them today. As long as it's under 10, I like LSU. But you're going to say, hey, how the hell can you bet LSU? I mean, the Heisman Trophy winner's not playing. Well, I kind of like Nussmeier. And here's a little secret. as far as LSU, and LSU fans don't want you to know this, so I'm going to say this softly. Before the season, a lot of LSU fans wanted Jaden Daniels to be benched. They wanted Nussmeier as their quarterback. Even after the Florida State game, they wanted Nussmeier, not Daniels. Yeah, you heard that right. LSU fan, don't deny, but I read those boards. I read the comments. With that being said, all jokes aside, Nussmeier's very capable. Played a lot in last year's bowl game. Played a lot in last year's SEC championship game. I think very capable to have success here with an offense for LSU. Haven't had many opt-outs. I'm waiting to see if the two wide receivers, Thomas and Neighbors, opt out. So far, they haven't announced yet. Neighbors says he's going to play. He's trying to go for a single-season receiving record. So could be all hands on deck there. Most of the hands are on deck on the defense side of the ball for LSU. Cannot say the same for Wisconsin. This is a team that's starting running back Braylon Allen's opting out. Obviously, Malusi's already been injured. He's been out for the last half of the season. Starting center's opted out for Wisconsin. Starting cornerback, Maitre, is out. Transfer portal, a couple key wide receivers, Skylar Bell and DK, have hit the portal. Jordan Turner, a really good linebacker for them, has hit the portal. So they're down 5-6 starters. LSU is down the Heisman Trophy winner, but has one of the best backup quarterbacks in the country. I'm laying it. So if you got to bet a game on January 1st, as of right now, LSU for me. Let's lay the 9.5. Citrus Bowl. Iowa, Tennessee. Iowa against the two best opponents that they faced so far this season. Michigan and Penn State combined score 57-0. Tennessee's not as good as Michigan and Penn State, but they are better than the Big Ten West teams that Iowa was able to beat this year. I don't see a pathway for Iowa to have much success offensively. I know, breaking news. The pathway is going to be if they can turn the quarterback over for Tennessee. Depending on who that quarterback is, I expect the freshman to get some snaps in this one. You'd be crazy not to give him some snaps and some experience in this game. Total's 36. Transfer portal for Iowa, wide receiver that they never threw to. Vines has hit the portal. Cooper DeJean doesn't look like he's going to be back here. Tennessee's had a couple of key guys in the portal. Probably their best guy is that edge player, Tyler Barron. And they're going to be compromised significantly. And they had four key guys in the secondary at cornerback that hit the portal. But, against any other team, I would say, hey, I'm really concerned, but Iowa can't throw the football. So I don't think Iowa can take advantage of the portal losses for Tennessee. So I lean Tennessee. Not that I like this Tennessee team. I do not see how Iowa has. I'd be stunned if Iowa got to 13 points. Liberty, Oregon, final bowl game here, and then we'll give you the best bet. And keep in mind, guys, we will be talking playoff semifinals next Wednesday. Deep dives with the guys. Fiesta Bowl, Liberty, Oregon favored by 17.5. Totals up to 66.5. I think somewhat surprising to a lot that, obviously Bo Nix is going to play. That's why the line opened 14. The expectation was Bo Nix might not play. Now it's up to 17.5. Oregon has had a couple of opt-outs. Their center and running back, Jackson Powers-Johnson at center, and running back Bucky Irving have opted out. They could have a few more at wide receiver. On the offensive line, on the defensive line. Just a lot of those guys, at least as I'm recording this, haven't announced officially out yet. We'll see there. Liberty doesn't have, obviously this is the biggest game in the history of Liberty football. So mostly all hands on deck for them. But man, Liberty played one of the easiest schedules in the country. I'm not a big fan of Conference USA. I know they'll be hyped. I think they'll be able to move the ball against Oregon. I just think Oregon's going to go, as long as Bo Nix is a quarterback, they're going up and down the field. Oregon, when you look at the 6 bottom teams that they faced, and believe it or not, unbeaten, Liberty would be closer as far as a power rating to the bottom 6 teams that Oregon faced in Pac-12 play compared to the top 6. Oregon's offense averaged 55 points per game against the bottom 6 defenses they faced. And this is a Liberty defense that statistically looks all right, but my goodness, the eye test they didn't, especially in the Conference USA Championship game. New Mexico State went up and down the field on them. Even when they lost their starting quarterback, Pavia, the backup comes in and was throwing up and down the field on them. So Oregon's going to have a lot of success offensively. If you had to bet it for me, over 66.5. I mentioned a few bets. If you need more action, As far as the total under in the Fenway Bowl, I think weather could be a factor. At least there's a decent chance of it. It's already too high as far as I'm concerned, as far as my numbers with a backup quarterback for SMU. LSU, if you want to bet one on January 1st, would be one. I think if you want to get in front of a line move, I think there's a good chance the Buckeyes might close a favor in that one. But if you're talking best bet, and that's the whole point, and that's why you guys sat through a 60-minute monologue of old Brad Powers breaking down all these games, best bet, best value bet on the board for me. And this was harder than I expected due to like half these games moving here in the last 3-4 hours. I am going to go with the first day I talked about. I'm going back to the Potato Bowl, Saturday, December the 23rd. Let's go rotation number 228. We're going with Utah State. We're going to lay the 2.5 with Utah State minus 2.5. Georgia State with a bunch of key opt-outs. Pretty much all hands on deck for Utah State. They're used to playing in this, geographically speaking, in this stadium. Georgia State could be a culture shock. They're playing on the blue turf for the first time. I like Utah State here minus the 2.5. Let's go ahead and lay it with the team that played when you're comparing stats, statistically already the better team. If you're looking at yards per play margin, and that was when Georgia State had all their key players available, and now they don't. So, and I just like current form Utah State, and I think it closes 3. So Utah State minus 2.5. That is your best bet. Again, the guys, Payne and Todd, will be back next week with me as we break down deep dive. If you missed all the stats and the success rates and all that other stuff and all that other jargon, that will be back. I didn't use it this week because all those stats were made by a bunch of players that aren't playing in bowl games. So that's why I didn't dive into that. It was mainly who's in, who's out, who's coaching, who isn't, what's the market done, is it appropriately priced, where's the market going, and that'll wrap it up. Again, best bet with that Utah State. Utah State again, game number 228. Utah State minus 2.5. With that ticket in your hand, take care. Enjoy your bowl preparations.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Bet the Board. Make sure you follow Todd and Payne on X. Todd is at Todd Fuhrman. That's TODDFUHRMAN. And Payne is at Payne Insider. That's PAYNEINSIDER. Don't forget, our weekly newsletter comes with an additional best bet. Have that delivered to your inbox by clicking the link atop the podcast show notes. And most importantly, subscribe and download Bet the Board. We're on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Wondery, YouTube, Google Podcasts, and all your other major platforms.